All right, today on the show, we have Jon Lahey from Fine Living Group with EXP in the DC metro area. Let me tell you more about Jon. Jon Lahey is a best-selling author, an experienced speaker, and the founder of the Fine Living Group at EXP. He was born in Indonesia, but Jon moved to the US as a child in 1990 and was inspired by his parents' strong work ethic to achieve home ownership. He earned his BA in Information Systems and Management from the University of Maryland. He launched his real estate company in 2010 and is a certified proctor coach who mentors every single member of his team. Since choosing to focus on real estate, Jon has consistently finished in the top 1% in the nation as a realtor, selling over 200 homes per year. Jon's network has grown rapidly, growing from approximately 20 realtors to 60 realtors in just a year. And before I actually bring Jon on, going from 20 realtors to 60, what I do all day is recruit realtors. That is an incredible feat. So Jon is amazing. We're so happy to have him. Please visit Jon at his website, which is the Lahey Group, Lahey, the Lahey Group.com. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Jon, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me here, DJ.
So grateful to have you. You're in one of my favorite cities. I think most people love the DC area, and not just the city is so cool. The surrounding areas. I know you guys sort of tackle all of it. And do you end up, just had a quick question, because I know I have friends that are attorneys in that area, and they oftentimes have to take the bar in different states because, of course, you border a few of them. Does the same thing happen for real estate, where you have to get licensed in each state?
So I just laugh not because of that, but we're known as like the area with the most lawyers.
Yeah,
the DC area has the most attorneys. So yeah, in real estate here, I have to get my license in Maryland, a DC license, a Virginia license. And the best part is the continuing education.
Oh, I'm sure.
Continuing education for all three, and only a few of the classes like overlap. So most of the time, most of the classes I'll have to take like the actual classes every time, and the renewals different years. So something I don't look forward to is the renewal.
And is it 3 different MLSs as well, or is it
thank
one?
Goodness, only one MLS.
Oh, thank goodness.
One MLS.
Well, anyway, I was just curious. I know that's not the reason why you're here, but I was curious because, of course, DC is such a complicated area, and they probably should just make it its own state, but that's another conversation for another time. But I would love to talk to you. You have done so much since you started in real estate, but you started out as an IT guy. So I like I'm so always love how people transition into real estate. You know, were you originally, when you were at University of Maryland, was the thought to become a developer or to work in the tech space, or were you always thinking real estate?
So the funny thing is, real estate was never, in my mind. I remember it was like 4 or 5 years after I graduated high school, I came back to my high school for my sister's graduation, and I met my close friend, one of my best friends from high school, and he had became a realtor. And I looked at him, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, why would you give up like your engineering? He was an engineer. I'm like, why did you give up your engineering degree to become a realtor? I'm like, that makes no sense. Like I trashed the guy, right? 2 years later, I was licensed. Like, I never had any plans of becoming a realtor. It's kind of like, I don't want to say it's by accident. I believe it was my destiny,
Sure.
But it was never planned. It was never planned. I worked I work in an IT company, and my job was to train like all these end users around the world. So I was working overnight shifts with my clients in Germany, my clients in Hong Kong, and I was available on their hours. And then during the day here, I would show houses. That's how I was juggling between the IT world and then the real estate world. And then I looked at my numbers a couple of days ago. And the funny thing is, my first 4 years in real estate, I sold a total of 11 homes. So I had no business like even surviving in real estate, because 4 years I sold 11 homes. And then on my 5th year, I decided to go full-time into real estate, which, if you think about it, it's crazy, because
that is crazy based on the previous 4 years.
Right. And I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking, but something inside me was like, hey, you should go full-time into real estate. And so I did. And thank goodness I have a family who supported that idea and didn't call me crazy or stupid or dumb. And my wife's like, you know what, if you believe that, if you believe it's time to go in real estate, I'll support you. And my first year in full time in real estate, I sold 11 homes, and like 11 is like the number apparently, and then from there,
by the way, that's not a bad number for a first year in real estate. It doesn't maybe feel good from a bank account perspective, but that's not and again, I know you had been doing it for several years part-time before, but really it's not a terrible first year, but it's not an easy first year.
It's not an easy first year. And I thought, I'm sure a lot of the listeners have probably thought the same thing. I'm like, I just need one of those like $1 million sales, and this will be an amazing year. And that $1 million sale never happened. And I'm just like, I just need one more deal. It was like an up and down every 2-3 months. There's no deals, right? And it was a hard first year full time in real estate for me, but hey, I survived. And that's where I am today. That's why I'm here.
So what do you think made the difference? You had a great job. You were really doing 2 jobs, but you had a great career in the tech space, and certainly that was your training was to stay in that world. You decided to dabble in real estate, in your off hours, which you really didn't have many. And then you said, I want to try this full time. The first year, 11 deals, pretty good first year, maybe not a fun first year, but numbers wise, not terrible, but not enough to really, maybe replace the income, maybe even from the other job. So when you got past that first year, was there anything, what kept you motivated? Did you just see that this is going to get easier and better? Or was it like, did you try different things? I'm just curious what made the difference for you.
I always believed that failure was not an option. I learned early on that once you made a decision, burn the boat so you can't go backwards. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, well, there's no going back. I'm just going to have to make this work somehow. After that first year, I met a mentor. And I can tell you right now, anybody who's listening today, if you want to go to the next level, find somebody who's already doing and accomplished what you really want to do, and just find that person and hang around that person and pick up the clues, because success leaves clues, right? Yeah. Figure out how they think, figure out what they're doing, and just copy it. And so that's what I did. My first year, I sold 11 homes. First year full time, I barely survived. My second year, I met a mentor. And then I just spent all my time just learning from this person. Actually, I met a couple of mentors. And so I was very fortunate to have met multiple mentors. And that really made the difference in that my second year, my third year, I went from selling 11 homes to 22 homes to 44 homes. And then it's just, that's the rest, that's the history. I just kept on doubling my production, but the doubling of the production, it got acceleration in that process because I met somebody who's already accomplished it. And all I did was just like, all right, let me just copy what you're doing. Let me just copy how you think. Let me just copy how you troubleshoot things, coming from an information systems background, the way my brain works is always like that. If the systems follow the outcomes predictable, because that's the systems processes, right? So with that mindset, I'm like, all right, if I just follow their process, my outcome should be the same. And so I just started doing that.
It makes all the sense in the world. And it reminds me of that story of Roger Bannister, who I think it was Roger Bannister who ran the first 4-minute mile, I believe.
4-minute mile.
Yeah. So just not that I'm going to go through a whole story, but my understanding is whatever year that was, I want to say it was in the 70s, but I could be wrong. But whatever year it was that he did that, nobody had done it prior. And then literally that next year, because he had done it, and you talked about success leaving clues. And I'm not sure that people necessarily knew what his regimen was, but just also even knowing that it's possible, which is essentially what having your mentor was like, oh, you did 11 homes, I did 75 or 100 or 200. And you're all of a sudden you're like, oh, it is possible. So, and then you got to actually watch what that mentor did. And you're so right. Success leaves clues, and it probably saved you countless years, I would think, of trial and error, because you already had somebody who had been through the war.
Exactly. I didn't have to recreate the wheel, and I didn't have to go through all the failures. I mean, I failed a lot too, you know. That's the other reason why I
Sure.
was successful. I don't mind trying.
Yeah.
Other people are telling me, hey, don't do that. Don't do that's not gonna work. And I'm like, well, how would I know it's not gonna work if I don't try it? So I'm like, let's try. And so I realized that the more successful the person is, if what they don't tell you is all the failures that they have along the journey that they don't, that stuff don't go on social media, by the way. Like
Right.
I don't post my failure stories. My close friends know my failure stories. Here on this podcast, I'll tell you my failure stories, but it's not something where we just tell you stuff on stage like, oh yeah, by the way, let me tell you about how I felt on that one and that one and that one. But all the people who are successful in life, I bet you there's a boatload of like less successful stories along the way that they keep on getting up from, you
I,
know. And
yeah, I was going to say,
I'm proud of
I
that.
actually think really successful people fail more, and
Yeah,
meaning there's just because they're doing more, they're failing more, and as a result, they're learning because you only learn when you fail or when you make a mistake. I mean, it's really the only way we learn. And so the idea of failure is the feedback loop. I mean, you're a systems guy, you know, failure is the way to improvement, and so it's sort of the irony is failure stinks and it's not fun, but it really is the key. Is fail as much as you can, just learn from it and make adjustments.
Tony Robbins said this, right? Tony, I'm sure you know who Tony Robbins is. He says
Sure.
constant and never-ending improvement, which
Yeah.
is part of the never-ending improvement. Is also there's going to be failures and stumbles and other things along the way where it's not perfect. So I mean, I love it. Somebody says if you want to be successful, fail. And when you fail, you're gonna fail and you're gonna fall forward. You're
Yeah.
not falling backwards, you know. And so every time you fail, you're just gonna get back up and fail again, get back up again, and fail again. And you know what? I'm more proud of my failure stories than where I am today, because the failure stories defines who I am. Because out
Yeah.
of every single one of those failure opportunities, I keep on getting back up. And everybody who's successful has those in their part of their process. It's like, all right,
Yep.
failure is just part of the journey, and you just keep on
Part of
getting
it, part of the
back up.
deal.
It's part of the deal.
Yeah. And also resiliency is what you get when you bounce, like you were saying, you got back up, you kept going, and all of a sudden you build those muscles and those calluses where it's like the failures don't, you know, you're like, oh, I survived that, and then it's like, oh, it didn't kill me that I lost that client. Okay, I guess I'm okay. I can dust myself off and keep going, and then those failures get easier and easier to handle because you're building that resiliency muscle. And I recently talked to a therapist about this, and she's like, the most important skill that she thinks people don't often develop when they're younger is resiliency. It's this
Oh
idea
yeah.
of being able to fail and then learning how to like soothe yourself so that you go, okay, it's going to be fine. You'll, you know, and then you make some adjustments, you try again. And, but the resiliency, and also I love the fact that you cut off any other option too, which we don't talk about that much in our, at least in our society, of cutting off, like you said, burning the bridge behind you. It's like you didn't really burn a bridge, but you're just like, this is it, this is what I'm doing. Of course, I'm sure could have gone back into the IT world if you really wanted to,
Yeah.
because of that's your training, and that would have been a fine career too. But realizing like, I'm going to figure this out. People figure this out, and probably
Yeah.
people a lot less intelligent than you figure this out too. So it's like, wait, I can do this. But
Exactly. And I just wrote on my paper, you know, the failure makes the success sweeter.
mhm,
It makes it so the celebration's much sweeter when you remember where you came from. Imagine you just get into real estate and boom, the next thing you know, you already made $1 million, but there's no journey to the story. What do you celebrate? You just celebrate getting there, and then you're like, all right, so what's next? But the success, the happiness, the satisfaction is in the journey of getting back up and then trying something and not work and just keep going at it. You know, the
yeah,
determination. I think in Grow Rich, one of the first thing they said is the reason why Henry Ford is successful is because of his determination. That's really the secret.
yeah.
Determination.
Yeah. And Henry Ford would say, I'm not the most intelligent person. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. In fact, I think he would have a panel of buttons on his desk that would summon, you know, this is before the internet, but he would summon people from other departments. He
Yeah.
says, I don't need to know everything because I have people in my life that I just push a button. I mean, you could call that a mentor, or you call that a coworker, or whatever.
Mhm.
I can get the answer to anything by pushing this button. But his point was like, he's like, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm just maybe really determined. I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I love that you have that. And because you're a systems guy, our audience loves hearing about systems. So I'm curious if we're not asking you to share your secret sauce, of course, but any system ideas you have that agents, when you're coaching agents, when you're talking to them, that you feel, gosh, I see this a lot, where they're just they don't have this part of their process really well defined. Or I'm curious if you have any suggestions for our audience for systems.
Oh, absolutely. So it was maybe like 8 years ago, and I had just fired my third assistant in like 2 months. And I was standing outside the restaurant. I'm a foodie, right? I'm standing outside the restaurant, and my third assistant called me, and I think I forgot if I fired her or she quit. And I thought to myself, I'm like, there's gotta be a better way. Like, why am I attracting the wrong people? And then I realized it's probably me. Like, I didn't have
I'm the common denominator.
The common denominator, not them, it's me. I'm the reason why it's not working. It's not. So I realized I didn't have a system. I didn't have a process for people to follow, which means I can't leverage the things that I shouldn't be doing to grow my business to the next level. So I can focus on the high dollar productive activities, because I'm doing everything, right? And I realized that I'm the reason why this is all failing. I remember I got on a plane the next day, and I was in DCA, Reagan National, and I was flying to LAX. It was a good 5.5, 6 hour flight. I was sitting on the second row, middle seat. So I was stuck in the middle. And this is before like internet was like common on flights. So I can't get on the internet. And I was stuck in the middle seat. And I pulled out my notepad, my yellow notepad. And I thought to myself, okay, what would have to happen? What happens every single time I get a client? And I start writing it down, paperwork, and sending an introduction email, and making sure the listing agreement gets sent on to this person and that person and this person. And I created an actual checklist system for my processes. The things that are the lowest dollar producing activities, I put on paper. And then when I got back home, I put it all into a checklist system I use Infusionsoft. So I put everything into Infusionsoft that triggers automatic emails, and when people follow the checklist. What I did back in
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, it's so funny because as you were saying that, I was realizing, and I hope our audience was thinking the same thing, that I was thinking in my own business. And again, I'm not a producing realtor, but I do other things very similar to what realtors do. And I was thinking, oh, what are my low income producing, or what are my non-income producing tasks that I have to accomplish that I should consider giving to someone else. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that's exactly what I did. And then I got back home. I put everything into Infusionsoft, which is our CRM / data process systems. And I called the local high school, and I said I'm like, connect me to the counselor. And the counselor picked up and I said, hey, can you get me a student who needs extra hours? And I want to train her to run my system. Because I looked at it as, McDonald's is run by systems. And the thing with McDonald's is, no matter which McDonald's you go to, you can go to a McDonald's in Chicago, you can go to a McDonald's in Rockville, Maryland, you can go to McDonald's in LA, you get the same stuff, you get the same process, you get the same output, because the system's predictable, right? The outcome's predictable. And so I called the high school and I said, send me a student, a smart girl or a smart person. And I'm like, just give me somebody who needs extra hours. And so I gave her the key to my kingdom, which at the time we had like 4 or 5 agents. And I said, all right, you're going to run my system. This is how I know if the system's going to work or not. Because when the system's followed, regardless of skill set, the outcome should be predictable, right? Yep. And so I gave the keys to the kingdom to a 17-year-old. And I said, I'm going to train you to run my company based on this checklist that I created on the plane. And I know it sounds funny, right? But I said, all right, let's try it. And then I went on a trip. So December 2015, December 2015, we flew to Bali. We actually went to Bali, and we left and we stayed in Bali for 4 weeks, flew back home, and we had $7.9 million in ratified contracts while I was out in Bali, because when the systems followed, the outcomes predictable. And I looked at it, I'm like, did a high school girl just manage my team and we just had our productive month ever?
It's
it blew my
incredible.
mind. And so that's my system story. If there's one thing that somebody who wants to scale up, and first off, find out what things are bogging you down, that's not really high dollar producing activities, and give it to somebody else and create a checklist system. A checklist system is the easiest way to do it. Just make a checklist of the things that has to happen every single time something happens, right? So that's what I created. I gave it to somebody and I taught her how to do it.
I love that because, and also back to the McDonald's sort of reference is McDonald's restaurants are essentially run by 17-year-olds too.
Exactly.
So that's sort of the genius of it is like, well, if they can, and I'm not here putting 17-year-olds down. They're just 17-year-olds. They can follow processes. They're probably not great innovators at that age, although who knows, but they're able to follow instruction. Clearly fast food restaurants know that. And so that is an incredible, I've never heard of anyone. I've heard of people hiring like an experienced person to then run their systems, but I love the fact that you're like, I want to see, probably it was the most sort of true test is like, I want to get somebody who really has no business running any of this.
Yeah.
And it worked. That's incredible.
We've always had good agents, but I didn't hire a high level director, leader, manager until we were selling like 150 homes, 180 homes. At that point, I'm like, all right, for us to go to the next level, I do need somebody who's actually a high level leader, because at that point we're gonna double. I need leaders, because at that point it's more than just a system. We need leadership to go with it, right? But until we were selling 150 homes, 120, 150 homes, all of my stuff was run by just systems and assistants.
I love that. And we're so lucky now in this time to be able to, with technology now, we can get connected to help from all over the world. And we are not limited, simply to like local high school kids. If that's not what somebody wants for their business, I mean, you can hire people from all over the world to assist. And I feel like a lot of realtors have yet to really adopt that, and I think it's scary to give up some of that control. Was that hard for you to, even though you knew that this system likely should work, was it scary for you to then hand that over to somebody? Because I know a lot of our listeners, that's the feedback we get, is we say, well, you should hire an assistant and you can hire them relatively inexpensively if you look globally for people. But they're like, well, I just don't want to, I'm afraid they're going to say or do the wrong thing. Curious if you had those fears as well.
Obviously I didn't, because I hired and fired fast and then realized it was my fault, right? Really, the thing is, if you have at least a checklist or a process in place, you should be able to plug in any individual to help you with those processes. The key is you just have to know what needs to happen every single time. That's really the key. If you have the system and process in place, finding a person to plug in there shouldn't be a hard thing. Right. And the reason why I did it that way is like, I know some people are like, you should just hire somebody high level in the beginning. Well, the problem was I didn't have any money. It's not like I started and I was successful immediately. Right. Another reason why I started this way was because we were limited in budget. I was reinvesting a lot of the money that we were making on commission for systems and technology, and also for lead generation. So It's not like I had a lot of leftover money to just hire a high level assistant. That was the thing. And so when COVID happened in 2020, we were very fortunate because we had been running in the cloud since 2015. Like, all of my assistants were in the clouds. We were in the Philippines. We were in South America. We had zero, we didn't have any transaction coordinator that's local. We had nobody on listing coordination that's local. All of my assistants were running everybody was like somewhere else. We were always running in the clouds based on systems. COVID happened, office shut down. I was like, it's just like,
doesn't change anything for you.
Our process was the same. We had all the processes in place already. So I can say, I'm very fortunate that that was the route that we took back in 2014, 2015, as we were building the systems out, that we took that way instead of, the paper route.
I am such a big fan of hiring virtual assistants for all sorts of areas of life. I actually have somebody that I hire, which is basically she goes through all of my to-dos with me every morning for an hour. We
Yeah.
categorize them because I'm not good at staying on target with my to-dos. She also helps with, I mean, this, I'm only saying this because I think this might be helpful for our audience. I have, so if part of my, my struggles is my work life. I'm pretty well on top of things, but even in my home life, that's where I struggle. And so I even have somebody, or I say to them, can you come up with like 10 date ideas for this week? So I can then, organize something for my girlfriend, so that come up with like restaurants that we should go to. And so then she sends me a list of things, and it's some of the best money I spend,
I
because
love
then
it.
yeah. So it doesn't even have to just be work. I have systems to make sure, because I won't remember to do anything. So I
Yeah.
have to have those kind of systems. So I love that. But enough about me. But I want to talk. You talked about, you have become not only a top producer, but really a leader in the field. And I have to give you a huge shout out, because you were a panelist at RIS Media's 33rd annual CEO and Leadership Exchange. By the way, RIS Media, we are in communication with them right now to work on a project together as well. So I'm very excited.
Awesome.
When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's so cool. I'm a big fan of them. But I would love to hear about how you moved even from just, hey, I'm just, I'm a producing realtor, I've got a team, to now I need to share some of this with a broader audience.
It's exactly what you just said. How do I share this with a broader audience? My vision, since like 2017, 2018, I was attending a conference. I was attending a Tony Robbins conference, and it was the last day. And Tony's like, he shut the lights off, right? It was dark, pitch dark. And he's like, all right, imagine where you are in 5 years. And I'm like, all right, well, all right, let me imagine that. And it's like, dream bigger. Like, is that it? And so first I was like, yeah, I'll sell like 400 homes. And he's like, dream bigger. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. But he kept on challenging me to like expand like the goal. And I was like, all right, maybe I'll open up. And I started naming cities. I said, maybe I'll open up in Florida. Maybe I'll open up in San Diego. And I started naming places that I want to like expand my brand, the Fine Living brand to, which we never had that vision until like that conference. And that he's like, where do you want to be? And I'm like, Toronto, New York, Chicago. And I started naming like major cities, like West Palm Beach, Miami, San Diego. Guess what? We're open in San Diego. We have Fine Living Group San Diego, and thank you. We're open Fine Living Group Miami/West Palm Beach, like that whole area. We have a team down there. We have a team in Washington D.C., Virginia, Maryland, and we're continually expanding. And so it started with that dream, that vision that was just birthed out of a moment where he challenged me to dream bigger. And originally my dream was, I'm just gonna sell like a few more 100 homes, which is like, all right, we can just do that. But it's like, is that all you want? And I think that's what, the moment I knew what we want to do, what the vision was, it was a year and a half ago. I realized my old brokerage was just not the right model for that, that really fit that vision of expansion. And the reason we want to expand is not just to make money. It costs money to change people's lives, but we want to expand for like more than that reason, right? We want to change people's lives in these marketplaces. We want to have more influence over all these other people's lives and over the market in all these markets. And so realizing that I was not in the right brokerage, we had to make a really big and hard decision, because I had been at my old brokerage for like 11 years. And I had grown from like a nobody to rank number 23 in the world for that brokerage. And I'm like, gosh, like my ego is kind of hurting here. Like I'm not number one yet. My ultimate goal is to become number one in the world. And I'm like, yeah, I think it's time to go. I think we found a model with EXP where expansion was possible, where growing in San Diego was actually very easy to do. And opening up in Florida was going to be very easy to do. And we had the right people in place in those two markets. And so just having that vision aligned with the model in place and the company that had the same mission, everything just accelerated. And it's pretty cool because Swiss Media, they saw what was happening. They saw that the number one Remax broker owner team in Maryland shut down. And then the next thing, like 6 months later, we had two other teams, which even I couldn't have predicted. I had no idea that was going to happen that fast. It was a vision, but what was cool is it just happened so fast. The people were ready. The vision was there. We had the system that we've been testing for like ages, with our team locally. And then we just planted the system in Florida. We planted the system in San Diego, and then boom, now we're open in 3 locations. And then Risk Media saw that and they're like, wow, I guess we should see what's actually happening here, because we went from 20 to 65 in 65 real estate agents in such a short period of time. I'm very fortunate. I'm grateful for that. And I have amazing people. I'm really fortunate because I have amazing people with me. Hang around people who believe things are possible, by the way. Like if there's one thing, just hang around people that believe that there's nothing impossible, and impossible things will start happening. If you hang around people who just will put you down and be like, hey, that's impossible, that's stupid, don't do that, then you're just gonna be stuck not growing. So if there's one thing I can like share today, like my vision was my vision, but hang around people who believe in that vision. Hang around people who believe in the impossible, because you'll go far with those people.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think you're right. Well, I know you're right. It's this idea of being around people who go, oh yeah, there's a way to do that, instead of, ooh, that seems like, oh my gosh, that seems tough or not possible. Just somebody who goes, oh yeah, that could be done. And that's why being around people who are doing better than you is always so encouraging, because you're like, oh, that person figured it out, and there's a way to do that. I want to talk, since your team has grown substantially. You have 65 agents now. Last year you were at 20. So again, as somebody who spends 8 hours a day recruiting agents, I know you're not spending 8 hours a day recruiting, because you have a million other things to do as well, like running a team and
Right.
doing your own production and all of that. But and speaking and writing and all of the things you do. But I want to talk. We're going to take just a quick little commercial break for one of our sponsors, and then when we come back, I want to ask about how you go about finding people to attract to the team, because there's so many of our listeners who are looking to either join a team or maybe start a team themselves. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how they should select a team if they want to join an existing one, or maybe even create one of their own. Before we do that, just a quick note about our favorite sponsor, which is called Follow Up Boss. So this is my favorite CRM that exists. And I've interviewed hundreds of top realtors like Jon in the country for this podcast over the years. And the CRM that is used by more than any of our guests, Follow Up Boss. Now, let's face it, following up is the key to taking your business to the next level. We all know that. Follow Up Boss will actually help you drive more leads in less time with less effort. Don't take my word for it. Robert Slack, who runs the #1 team in the United States, uses Follow Up Boss, and he's built a $1.5 billion business in just 6 years. Follow Up Boss integrates with 250 different systems, so you can keep your current tools and processes in place. Also, the best part, Follow Up Boss has 7-day-a-week support. Realtors work on the weekends, right? So this is great, because you can get the help you need when you need it. And get this, Follow Up Boss is so sure that you're going to love their CRM that for a limited time, they're offering Keeping It Real listeners a 30-day free trial, which is twice as much time as they give everyone else who visits their website. But you have to go. Oh, and by the way, no credit card required either. Free 30-day trial, no credit cards. You don't have to worry about them charging you on day 31. But you do have to go to a special link to get the 30-day trial, which that link is followupboss.com/real. Again, followupboss.com/real. You have nothing to lose here. Check out their CRM. They're so confident you're going to keep using it that they're giving it to you totally free for 30 days. Follow up like a boss with Follow Up Boss. But now let's get back to Jon. So let's talk about recruiting and also retaining, but we'll start with recruiting because, and I don't know that that's even the right word, but how we attract talent to the company. And that's maybe a word I would suspect you would probably use over recruiting. So if someone's out there and they're listening and they want to join an existing team, maybe your team even, how would you recommend that they might start to explore existing options, teams like yourself?
There are different kinds of real estate teams, right? There are different kind of things that they offer. Some teams offer leads, some teams offer appointments, some teams offer support, some teams offer systems, some teams offer coaching, some teams offer everything. And of course, depending on what you need to know, first of all, what do you need to take your business to the next level? Because just because there's an awesome team out there doesn't mean that fits what you need. And then you need to know also, like, ultimately what you want your business to look like long term. Like, is there a growth potential or growth opportunity for you to join that team and actually see you hit your vision, your goal long term? Or is this going to be like a temporary stay where you learn for the next 6 months to 2 years and then take what you learn and build your own team elsewhere? So kind of like first off, know what you want, know what you need. And then if you have that, the next part is not as hard. The hard part is if you don't know what you know, you don't know what you want, and you don't know what you need, then really there's no good fit out there. And it's just going to be like, you just have to test different teams. Okay. So that's the first thing. From the perspective of the team leader, for us, or for me at least, what I'm looking for are agents that fit our core values. Because like I said, I have competition out here. We have competitors that offer the same thing. So just because they fit me doesn't mean they're going to fit the other team, and vice versa. And so looking for the agents that fit our core belief, our core values, to me is more valuable than the skills. The skills I can teach. I can teach them scripts. I can teach them how to overcome objections. I can teach them kind of like some of the mindset things that we believe in. But if that's not their core, it's not sustainable long term. Like they'll go back to like who they really are long term, right? So like for us, the number one rule that we're looking for, or like the number one kind of like core value we're looking for, is we love, we care, we serve. We love, we care, we serve. We're looking for agents that just embodies that and live and breathe and believes that the most important thing to do to one another and to their clients is to love, care, serve. And it's a really easy way to measure that. The agents that believe in loving and caring and serving, you can see their success because they'll get more referrals, they'll get more repeat clients, and they get more 5-star reviews. And then you have the other agents who just sell, and they get none of those things, right? So that's something that we just learn along the way, that there's a lot of producers out there, and there are probably other agents that don't fit our culture, but they can sell a lot more with us, but they just don't fit our cultures, and we don't really want those agents. We're looking for agents who love, care, serve. Like that's our number one and most important rule on the team.
Yeah, I love that. And it's not just a slogan, right? It's like, you probably put every process and every action through that filter first, I imagine. Is every action we take under that love, care, serve umbrella, which probably helps, it probably makes your job a little easier, because sometimes when we're not sure what to do, if we push it through that filter of that's my highest value, it probably makes it more clear what to do. I imagine that really brings things into focus about what to actually do.
Exactly. We fire based on that value of love, care, serve, and we make decisions and we implement programs and systems based on that core value. Will this help us love, care, serve our clients more? Is this going to help us show that we love, care, and serve? Somebody said this before, and Maya Angelou. It was Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou said, "People don't remember what you say. People don't remember what you promise them, but people will remember how you make them feel."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's genius.
It is.
If we just make people feel special, we'll be super successful, because people will just recommend us everywhere. They'll remember us. They'll recommend us. It's I was in line at Disney World. You've been to Disney?
I have.
It's like 105 degrees in sunny
brutal.
Florida, right? And the line 2 hours long. 2 hours long, man. It was like,
oh, I know.
2 hours long. And I'm like, why are all these people like smiling and happy, and they're willing to line up for an experience that they've experienced before? It's because they don't remember the line. They remember how they felt. They remember how Disney made them feel. And so they keep on coming back. And I thought to myself, What if we create a process and a system where our clients feel the same way, where they don't remember how much money we sold their home for? They don't remember how much savings they got from us. They don't remember how much more money they got from us because of our amazing systems, but they remember that we cared.
Yeah.
And
One of my favorite little Disney things, and I don't know if this is still in effect, but it used to be a rule, and probably still is, at the park down in Orlando, which is if anybody from staff, whether it's the person sweeping up the cigarette butts on or the wrappers on the floor to the people in the Mickey Mouse outfits walking around taking pictures, anyone on staff, apparently, if they come within, now, if you have the Mickey Mouse head, this wouldn't work, but for people that you could see their face who work at the park, if a guest, if one of, a visitor comes within 10 feet, they have to smile at the person. They have to make eye contact and smile. And it really goes to what you just said. It's like, that's such a simple thing, and you don't really think about it, except that makes people feel good. It's pretty easy to do. It doesn't cost anything. You don't even have to talk. You just have to smile. It's this idea of we're glad you're here and we want you to feel good. And so you're essentially doing a same version of that with Love, Care, Serve. And it's really, again, it sounds simple. It's actually pretty hard to do, but when you do it, it probably just ultimately makes everything a lot easier.
it's easy to do when the things are good, when it's a good, easy situation, right? When somebody that left your team and tried to recruit from your team,
right?
Like I found out 24 hours ago. And then I had to go through that. And at the end, I said to my staff and my leaders, I was like, hey guys, we love, we care, we serve. Just don't forget that. That's not easy to do.
No.
So it's easy when things are easy. It's not easy when it's a really, really tough situation. You just have to remember your core value. And as a leader, like I have to remember that, you know what? People look at me and they're waiting for me to fail too. They're like, let's see if Jon's gonna embody this love, care, serve belief, or is he gonna go the other way and start like trashing someone else? And I'm like, I gotta make sure that if I preach it and if I tell people, hey, we're all about loving and caring and serving, I have to keep on showing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, by focusing on your core values and again, if your processes weren't strong, then when things shake up the business, the top producer on the team leaves and tries to recruit or people away, and there's a shakeup, it really helps to be able to go back to that, because that love, care, serve model, because it really goes, everything's going to be okay. This is life has ups and downs, and
right.
and people are involved. So people are the most random things on the planet. We don't know what anyone's going to do at any given moment.
Right.
But you built something without any agent, right? You were just you. So you're like, well, I already know I can get more agents, and so but yes, it's not, doesn't mean it's easy, and it's certainly I've had that exact experience that you're referencing, so many times. So it's one of those. And I used to get very, very upset about it. And then I sort of went, it's okay. It's all going to be fine. But it certainly can be challenging. So I would love to talk, when we're talking about challenges here, a challenge that most everyone is facing. And I know you can't solve this problem, but I'm curious how you cope with this problem for you and your team, since you are the leader. We're dealing with a shortage in inventory pretty much everywhere. Rates, of course, are rising. They're still historically, they're still pretty good, but they don't feel good in the moment because, of course, rates were so low before. So you have this sort of, difficult time for agents that don't have a lot of listings and maybe are working with buyers. So I'm just curious, how are you keeping your team motivated, engaged, and positive?
I tell my agents all the time, be the resource, educate your clients, and regardless if they're a buyer or a seller, position yourself as the expert by providing valuable information, right? Whether it's through videos, whether it's through social media. Don't just be like any other realtor saying, oh my gosh, we're in a crazy market. They already know that. But instead, how do you educate them how do you prepare your offer so that you win? And so we do videos every week. We have a new video that we send out to all of our whole database. And we treat everybody the same. We segmentize the database, but our whole database, I treat as if they're going to buy and sell today. Because all these people who are afraid right now, who's hesitating, they're looking for somebody to tell them what to do, right?
Yeah.
People love being told what to do. People love that the decisions are already made for them. And so we tell them like, hey, if you are still thinking of moving, here's 5 costly mistakes that you need to know this week so that you don't end up losing your dream home. Here's the 10 things that you shouldn't do if you're thinking of selling your home. And so we just become a resource, right? Because you know what, if they do want to buy and sell, you have to educate them anyways. You have to you need to show them so that they listen to you. And so we believe, we come in with the belief that, hey, just be a resource.
And you demonstrate that you have that skill on social media and also to your existing sphere of influence, your contact list. You're consistently reminding them we have information, not so much, hey, if you're ready to buy or sell, and I'm sure you say that too, or maybe you don't, but that's not the main message. The main message is I have something you need to hear. I have something you need to read. And so it's amazing how few realtors do go that route and become the place that people will tune into to get knowledge versus, oh, I'm thinking it's time for me to sell my house. I need to find a realtor versus, oh, I've been following this guy for a while. He's great. And he's constantly telling me what to do and what not to do. I'm just going to go with him.
Exactly. And so we're getting clients or buyers and sellers calling us. They've been on our database for ages and they're finally like coming back and they're calling. They're like, hey, I've been watching your videos. I'm ready to go now. So we treat everybody the same. And then every seller, oh, well, not every seller, but the majority of sellers are buyers. So if you have a database of buyers, essentially you have a database of potential sellers in that database. So we just educate them as if they're buyers, because most people don't wake up in the morning. They're like, oh, I got to sell my house. Most people wake up in the morning. They're like, this home is too small. I need another house. So then we create a video. Hey, if you're waking up this morning and you realize that your home's too small, you need to watch this video. Here's 3 costly mistakes people have. And we give them content based on that because it's their thought. People don't wake up in the morning saying, I got to sell my house.
I'm going to pause for a second. That is a brilliant insight that you just said that I've done about 400 episodes. I don't think anyone specifically ever said in that way. And I want to sort of just go over that again, because that's really important. Yes, people might look up their home value on Zillow, or they might do little things like that. But you're right. Day to day, people aren't thinking about whether they want to buy or sell, but they are thinking about whatever challenges they're having. And so you're basically saying, hey, if you have this challenge, I've got a solution for you. And that is a great way to think about creating content, thinking about what are the actual challenges that my audience is experiencing. And then here's some knowledge or some solution. Boy, that's a brilliant strategy. I love that.
Just be a resource, provide information, provide solutions. And then when they're ready, they're going to raise their hand. They're going to be like, hey, DJ, I'm ready. I've been watching you for the last 8 years. I've been in your database. You're the man. Like, you have all the content. I'm ready to go now, right? That's how we do it. Now, we do create that database. We do have, we generate a lot of buyer leads and seller leads, but not everybody's ready. Most of them just goes into our database, and then we put them into our follow-up process, including content, videos with content and things like that.
I love that. And you try to make a new video weekly. That's the schedule?
Yep. Every single week we'll have a new content coming out. And my assistant will make sure I do that. She's like, hey, you need 3 more videos for next month. I'm like, all right. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how long do you have a specific length that you try to hit with your videos? Do you not worry about that? Is it more about the content, or do you just because I know you're a process guy and I know you've looked at all the data from your videos and all the engagement metrics, curious if you found shorter videos or longer videos tend to work better for you?
Right now, all my videos are usually between 3 to 5 minutes long. But ironically, the video that has the most views is like 15 minutes, which I can't figure out. But that one has, that video, I think, is how to sell your home without an agent. And that one has the most views, but that's like a 15-minute video that I can't redo. It's just too long.
But it works. And that's the other thing too, is I think when our audience is trying to put out content, you can experiment with long form, experiment
Yeah.
with short form, and see what works. But I love that you're really, you think of yourself, I imagine you consider yourself more of a consultant than a realtor. Would that be fair to say?
Very, very accurate there. I see myself as the consultant to agents, and I'm the consultant and the content for home buyers and homeowners who's thinking to sell. And then, oh, by the way, I do sell houses. Like, I am a realtor on the side, but I provide information and I consult, and yeah, that's what I do. Advisor. I'm an advisor.
And you're always tracking with how your agents are feeling and how the clients are feeling, right? Because that you were talking about making sure that there's as many positive feelings associated with the process as possible. And that can be tough, right? Because with every single real estate transaction, there's some wrinkle that'll happen, or we can assume there'll be a wrinkle that will cause some stress, some frustration. Right now, and a lot of that, right? We're still in a high bidding situation, lots of multiple offers. And I'm just curious if you have any quick tips, since only because you mentioned it, about getting an offer noticed. Is there anything that you're doing that you could share with our audience, a simple way that they can, have more success having their offers highlighted, I guess, versus all the others coming in?
I think the first part is building rapport with the listing agent.
Yeah.
Like, if there's anything you hear from what I say today regarding like offers, that rapport with the listing agent goes a long way. That rapport will get you a call back versus a straight out rejection, right? You could be the second, third, fourth, like on the actual chain of offers, but if there's rapport and they like and trust you, you're going to get a call back. And a lot of times you'll get an opportunity to up your offer. Okay. I tell my agents that all the time: build rapport. The most important thing in your offer is you have to build rapport with the person in charge of presenting the offer. If you have rapport, you have a chance. If you have no rapport, you can be the best offer, but they don't like you. Who to say the agent won't tell their seller and say, hey, I don't like this agent, don't work with this agent, right? And who to say that listing agent won't call the second highest offer and say, hey, listen, I don't like the highest offer. Can you beat it? So that rapport goes a long way. There you go. That's my one tip.
it's the greatest tip you could have given, because and I'm 45, I'm 45. I had to think about my age, but I really just, and I didn't figure this out, I read it, but being likable is really a lot of what we're talking about when you're talking about rapport. It's like, well, how do you build rapport with agents? Okay, well, there's lots of different ways to do that, lots of books, and there's whole fields of study on rapport. But if nothing else, if you're just a nice human being and you are authentic and genuine and a good human being, and you are pleasant and happy and excited, that works for the vast majority of people in this, in society. Is if you're just a nice human. It's kind of like, about twice a year, I'll pass somebody on the street and they smile at me and I notice it. It only happens a couple times a year, yeah. But what it does, it's such a magical moment where I'm like, I don't even know that person and I like them just because they smiled at me. We're talking about the Disney thing, right? And but it's like, even just being a good, hey, I'm so excited to be able to give you this offer. I think it's pretty solid. I don't know you, but I want to get to know you, Mr. and Mrs. Other Agent, listing agent. And you can build a relationship, a professional, friendly relationship that way, and just be a good human. And they have to deal with so many other stressed out realtors who are not super pleasant, who, don't smile, don't do the little fun things when they're emailing the offers, and it's just, here's the stuff, and it goes a long way, just playing nice in the sandbox, they say.
Right. You never know when you're going to encounter the same agent again.
And you will.
And you will. As the market turns, the good agents are going to stay. You might as well make friends with those good agents, because you're going to see them again. And it might be, and if you're the listing agent today, be nice to those buyer agents, because there will be a time when that buyer agent's now the listing agent and you need your offer to be reviewed. And if you were mean before, they're going to remember, because people remember how you make them feel.
I would love to just ask you, because we do a pre-interview with our guests, and they send us some stories, and I rarely ever get to them, but I love this one. I would love to hear about where there was. I'll just tee it up by saying this is that you had a long lost family member. Can you tell us that story with the real estate story?
Oh my God, the long lost family member, and this has nothing to do with love, care, and stuff. This is I think maybe 8 years ago or so. And I was at the time, we were a small team. I was the buyer agent in this transaction, and I was showing my buyer homes all around like Gaithersburg. And I got to this one house, and this long lost family member that's related to my wife, we hadn't seen in years, just disappeared. We didn't know where that person went.
Wow.
Like, I mean, we knew he was alive, but we didn't know where he went, just like disappeared. And so this Saturday morning, I put the key in the, in the key in the door handle. I opened, and this man was right behind the door, and he tried to open the door for me. And I looked at him and was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? This is your house." It was.
And you had no idea.
I had no idea, because I don't go out there. As a buyer agent, I'm not researching who owns the house, you
Sure.
know, and I didn't know where he lived. I thought he moved out of the area, and yeah, he appeared, and he stuck around after that. Like we got reconnected, and now we're all good and fine again. But that Saturday morning, a long lost family member that we hadn't seen in years was behind the door, not knowing that I was the buyer agent that was going to show his house. And then we got reconnected. And I remember calling my wife. I was like, "You're not going to believe who I just found."
Well, and there's only millions of homes in your immediate area, so the odds of that happening are so astronomical. That's never going to happen, except it did.
And it was the first time I met my niece.
Oh,
Was right there when he opened the door. I was like, "Oh, well, hello." Yeah, cool.
I just had an almost identical, very similar experience, not with a family member, but I was at a party this week, and this made a little bit more sense. Yours is like amazing that ever happened. I was at a party, and an old fraternity brother of mine, who I didn't know knew the people that were having this party. I didn't know they were connected in any way. He walks in, and we reconnected, and so. This really is, and it was a kind of a businessy sort of thing. And so it was fun. It's like, this is such a cool business, because there's so much good feelings between agents. It is called a cooperative commission when agents work together, when the clients get their needs met, when people are moving into their first home ever or their next home, when they're selling. There's so much excitement, and yes, it's stressful too, but boy, are there some wonderfully great feelings that go along with this business. And I think agents maybe could focus on, like you do, focusing on the feelings really help get you through the tough times. And it is challenging right now. It's tough. But if you focus on those feelings, and I know your team does that. I'm curious, are you guys doing anything to help owners understand the market right now? Meaning, right, like great time to sell, tough time to buy because not as much inventory. So I'm curious, how are you coaching the sellers, or your agents to coach the sellers? What are you telling them to do? Because there's probably just a lot of people who are scared. Like, I want to sell and make a big profit, but then I don't know where I'm going to live.
We give them market data, right? We can't change the facts, but we can help interpret the data. So we give them the data, like, "Hey, markets are increasing right now." That's one of our last messages. We actually just picked up a listing this morning. I did, where the seller said, "Well, I don't really want to move until maybe October or maybe next year." And I said, "That's fine. I'm just here to be a second opinion for you." And I said to him, I'm like, "All right, well, let me just tell you about the current market conditions, and then you can decide whatever you want to decide. I'm not emotionally connected to the outcome of what you decide. I'm just here to provide you the market information. But because if I don't give you the market information, and then you realize 3 months from now that the market has shifted and you just lost the opportunity to sell, then it's my fault, right?" So we just come in from the perspective like, "Hey, we're just here to provide information, to educate, to give you all the latest, and then you decide what's best for you, including staying." So I said, "All right, here's the truth. Rates have increased. The number of buyers that used to be able to qualify for your home have also decreased. And so if you sell today, here's the current market price. If you sell in October, I really don't know. And I said, but you can see visually, because it's a very visual person. I said, imagine the pool, the circle of buyers decreasing from this big to this big. And the more demand you have for a home, the higher your price is going to be now that that number of pool buyers is now smaller. What do you think is going to happen to your price? And of course, I'm not going to tell you it's going to go down, but you can figure that out yourself. And he said, oh, that makes sense. And his need, and again, his need was he needs to sell his home for a certain number. And I said, well, if you sell it today, I know I can get you that number. If you sell in October or next year, I really can't guarantee that number, because we don't know what's going to happen with, I mean, the stock market's crashing. Rates are, who knows how high it's going to go. I can tell you what's happening today. And I'm here to provide you information based on today's data. Tomorrow, I'll give you tomorrow's data. In next month, I'll tell you next month's data next month. But today, I know what's happening today. So that's how we come, and that's how we provide information to our sellers. And then, of course, if at the end of the day, they're like, well, what do I buy? Well, let's talk about what you need to buy. Let's see if what you want is there. Because if what you want's not there, we're also here to provide that information to you. So that's really the angle we come in. We're not there to make decisions. We're there to provide the information so they know how to make the right decision for themselves.
Let's deconstruct. I want to just step on this a little bit, because you just said something so incredibly valuable. I want to make sure our audience got it. Number one, here's what I heard. When Jon goes into a listing presentation or a buyer consultation, he's like, hey, almost not that he doesn't care what decision they make, because of course he does, and he's running a business and he wants clients. But the message he gives across is, hey, you get to make the decision. If you want to list your home, great. If you don't, fine. I'm going to be with you regardless. I don't have any particular feeling of disappointment should you decide to sit on the sidelines for a while. I'm still your guy. I'm still going to hang out with you and give you anything you need. That is a really different, and if we think about it from the customer perspective, because I am not a producing realtor, I'm thinking of myself as a customer. I would go, oh, thank God he's not trying to he's not going to be upset if we don't move forward. Because there's pressure there as a consumer to go, oh God, now I have to pretend like I'm going to do this, and then I have to think I love it when salespeople, unquote, say, I don't care whether you buy or not this product. I just want you to have all the information so you can make the right decision, which is exactly what you're doing. And that is such a simple and subtle, but crazy powerful thing for a customer experience. It's also, by the way, it's also very, very thoughtful, and it's empowering to the person, because you're like, I'm going to empower you to make the right decision, Mr. or Mrs. Client. And again, not every client wants that, but most of them probably do. I just wanted to sort of take a minute to talk about that, because that is so important. And again, I know it's just part of your process, but boy, is that a powerful thing to be able to get across somebody is, yeah, whether you buy or not, if now's not the right time, no problem. I just want you to have all the data so you can make the right decision.
That's exactly what it is. It's when nobody wants to be sold, right? I mean, do you ever go to the car dealership to be sold? No, you go to the car dealership to test drive the car.
Right.
Just like the people, when they call us for a listing appointment, they're testing you out, but at the same time, they don't really want to be sold. No. If they feel like they like you and you give them enough information, maybe they'll want to be maybe they'll come into that agreement. But the moment you just tell them up front, listen, and they can feel it, by the way, if you're going out there to close versus you're going out there to provide information, regardless of what happens, I'm just here to help you. They can feel that, right? And the moment they know that you're not out there to sell them and chase them and close them hard, and you're just there to provide information, their guard goes down. Because before that, they're all guarded up. They're like, I don't really want to trust you. I don't really want to open up really what's important to me, because I don't want you to sell me anything. I just want to get information. So if you just upfront be like, hey, I'm just here to provide you information. If you decide to move with me, to move and sell with me, love to. But if you're not ready, I'm here to provide you information today, and I'm going to help you come to an agreement as to what's best for you, whether it's buy, sell, or stay. People like that.
They absolutely do. It's respectful too. It's this, yes, I will be able to provide ideas and suggestions, and I have guidance and I have opinions, but Mr. or Mrs. Homeowner or potentially home buyer, I want you to make the right decision for you. So I'm here as a knowledge source. I'm here to make sure you have everything you need. That is very different than I have to win this listing presentation, right? Which is
Exactly.
how most, not most, I don't know what most agents think, but I think a lot of agents go in going, oh my God, I hope they like me. I hope you know, and the way that they'll like you is treat them as an equal, show respect, and also say, here are all of your options. And, you know, you have opinions about those options too. Well, here's what I think makes sense. Here's what might not make sense. But this idea that, hey, if by the way, if you decide this isn't the right time, that's totally cool. Like, you're not disappointing me. We want you to do the right thing for you. So we're going to be with you regardless. And then you end up getting the sale anyway, whether it's right then or 2 years from now.
Exactly.
That's the genius of it, is it works every time. It just doesn't always work instantly.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, boy. And I, for anyone listening who might be thinking, well, easy for John to say, he's doing 200 sales, 200 plus home sales a year. He can afford to not win every listing. I bet you were doing that at the very beginning.
It's just a mindset. I just believed that was the right thing to do from the beginning. Now, not to say that if I realized they're actually ready to go and, you know, they're financially able to buy or sell, they're interested in working with, they're realistic, they're motivated, I'm going to close them.
Sure.
Like I will close them. I will not walk out of the room without a present, without my paperwork sign, you know, but that's secondary. The first part is like, I'm just here. Number one, I also get to gauge if I want to work with them. Right. If I don't think
you're interviewing them too.
Yeah. For me, I'm like, I don't want to close somebody that's going to give me nightmares. So I want to make sure they're the right client that I can help. Just because they're a client that can be helped, that doesn't mean they're the right client for me. So I want to make sure they're the right client for me, that I can really help and support and provide all the information they need and all. But that's the first part. And then, of course, then I do close them. Otherwise, if you don't close them, we have no business.
Right. It just makes it a lot easier to close once you've given them all the information that they want, because you're not restricting information. A lot of realtors do that. They sort of say, well, they have their own secret sort of processes to restrict information, and it's as opposed to giving as much as possible so that the client feels informed, engaged, and then you can make the decisions together. It's really, really brilliant. Well, I feel like we've talked about this stuff, but I want to make a point. This is not only what John does with his team, so the other agents in his company, but also this is what he teaches to the consumers too. So this is a great thing if you are not getting this kind of coaching and support from the firm or from the team that you're currently with. John's going to train you. That's what he does. He's going to teach you these systems, all based around these values that he's developed. And he's been attracting agents at an incredible clip based on some of these values and processes. And John, can you talk a little bit about that? Like when an agent joins you, sort of what you do for them, not so much like leads but just teaching them processes.
So we teach them processes, we teach them mindset, we teach them scripts, and we coach them. But really, we start with core values, and then we ask them, what do you actually want? This time next year, you're smiling ear to ear, and you feel like it's the best decision in your life. What just happened? And I'm like, write it down. Because if they don't know where they are and they don't know where they want to go, like, then how are we going to get them there, right? So we help them with goal setting. We help them figure out, all right, currently my production's at this level, and I want this quality of life and this quality of production, this level of production. Let's put it on paper and let's create a roadmap from where you are now to where you want to go in the next 12 months. And let's really break it down: how many appointments you need, how much growing you need to do, how many times you have to make phone calls, how many appointments you have to go on, what your conversion rate is going to be. And we start tracking that. That for me is measurable, because those are all measurable numbers But if you don't know where they are and you don't know where they want to go, and they don't tell you where they want to go, if they tell you, oh, I just want to make $1 million. Okay, why do you want to make $1 million?
Right.
And then, and what does that give you? What will you do with $1 million? You go deeper, and just, you have to go deeper with the questions with those agents. So goal setting and really like planning for the future, vision casting with them. And then we also show them our processes and systems. Okay. And show them also how to, we call it the Fine Living system, because we're called Fine Living Group. So we have our Fine Living system. The first part is our lead generation system. Show them how our lead generation system works. We show them how our social media system works. We show them how our inside sales department will help make phone calls for them and convert the leads into appointments. And then we teach them the actual part of the process where our agents step in, which is the face-to-face consultations. So we teach them the presentation, how to build rapport, how to connect, how to educate, and then how to close. That's it.
Well, I think that a lot of our audience is going to want to reach out to you to learn more about your processes, your team, and whatever coaching opportunities exist, and maybe even joining your team. So for anyone out there who is interested in working with a team like Jon's, or maybe you have clients moving to the DC metro area or San Diego area now, and as Jon's Fine Living Group continues to expand, you know, they would love to talk to you too, because again, there's referral opportunities there. So Jon, what's the best way that one of our listeners can connect with you, and either to get advice or maybe just to find opportunities that would work for both you and the listener?
Send an email to Jon, Jon, at thefinelivinggroup.com. Jon at thefinelivinggroup.com. All right. And send an email there and we'll connect. Or you can go on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Foodie Realtor. All right. I'm the only foodie realtor in the world. So go to Instagram and send me a message there and we'll connect. And if you're local, we'll meet up somewhere for a drink or grab lunch, and we'll talk and see if what I'm doing is a good fit to help you grow your business. If you're not local, no problem. We'll Zoom. We'll connect on Zoom and we'll do a Zoom call and we'll talk and we'll do a consultation. I'd love to see what I can do to help grow your business. And really, I didn't talk about this earlier, but it was one of our mindsets from early on. If you help enough people get what they want, you get what you want. And it's just been our process. Our whole process is based on just help people get what they want. You want to attract good agents, figure out what that agent want and give that to them. And yeah, if it's money, if it's a feeling, if it's accomplishment, if it's whatever they want, figure out how to give them that and you'll attract the right people.
It's really funny. I was with my parents in just recently, a couple of weeks ago, and my mom has recently retired, and she was very successful in her career. And I was asking her, I said, just out of curiosity, what was the most important part of sort of you feeling like you were happy in your job? And she said, you know, it never was the money. Now, some people, it is money can be I'm not putting a judgment on whatever anyone's motivators are, but for her, she goes, it really wasn't the money. I mean, the money is nice and I'm glad that they paid me well, but she goes, you know what I really cared about more than anything was recognition from the company that I was doing a good job. And she goes, I know it sounds kind of silly because the money's the more sort of exciting thing that you can like use to buy things with, but she goes, I really just care that they thought I was doing a good job. And so Jon, what Jon's talking about is really important, right? Because that's a great way if you have a team out there, or if you're looking to join a team, or even just for your clients, understanding what they really want and need. And then, like Jon said, then you give that to them. You give them what they actually want and need. And everybody's different. So you get to sort of make that distinction between each interaction you have. And so anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because I was like, Mom, the money wasn't the number one thing. She was like, nope. And it wasn't like they were throwing millions of dollars at her. It was, she had a normal salary, but she goes, you know, what was real more important was recognition. It's like, oh, okay, cool. So if you know that about somebody, then you can give them the recognition they deserve.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's so funny. Well, everyone out there who is listening, and I mean, think about the feeling you got from listening to Jon during this last hour. You probably felt great. Jon is a happy, positive person. He deals with adversity. He's not immune to challenge. But think about how he made you feel during this interview. Did you feel good? Did you feel empowered, maybe a bit resilient and motivated? Well, that's a feeling that you're getting from listening to Jon. Imagine what it might be like working with Jon or being one of Jon's clients, right? So this is a great opportunity to reach out and find people, if it's not Jon, like Jon, to hang out with and learn from. But his team is always growing. So check them out. The Fine Living Group, again, thefinelivinggroup.com, also the LaheyGroup.com. We'll put these in the show notes. So you can find Jon. He just gave his email address. Please reach out to him. He would love to talk to you. Jon, it was a pleasure. On behalf of our audience, we want to thank you for spending an hour with us today. This was incredible. What a great episode. And on behalf of Jon, we want to thank our audience for getting all the way to the end here. And we ask everyone just to do one thing. Number one, check out Follow Up Boss, or two things, I'm sorry. One, first, check out Follow Up Boss, free 30-day trial. Second, tell a friend about this episode. Just one other realtor that you know that could benefit, that needs to hear what Jon said today. Send them a link to this episode. Easiest way to do that, keepingitrealpod.com. Now, every episode we've ever done is there. Or you just pull up a podcast app, send them a link to our channel. So Jon, on behalf of everyone, thank you. And we will see everybody on the next episode. Thanks, Jon.
Thank you.